From Atlanta all the way to Indiana, with cars by cage snipes, I'm major, damn right. On stages, popping collars, I'm making a bigger dollar. When the engine holler, the women follow to see the problem. See, he got Impalas the same color as pollen, and I ain't got.
What's up, everybody? It's Cape Sack from Custom Audio Reimagined, coming at you with another product review. And you may notice that we are not in the comfortable office right now. That is because this subwoofer and this amplifier are heavy as hell. And carrying them around through my house, through my office, back and forth is gonna kill me. So I went ahead, got them set up and loaded here in the shop for the testing, and we'll just go ahead and do it all in one hit because I cannot carry this stuff around anymore. What's on my left is a gigantic amplifier, well over 3 foot long, 20,000 watts max capable at 18 volts. It is the G4-10K. It is a huge amplifier. And on my right is the Genius 15-inch competition sub. It is a huge subwoofer, massive motor, huge 4-inch coil. It is insane. So both of these products are for competition. These are competitor series equipment. If you run DB drags or anything like this, this is what you'd want to run. Now, doesn't mean you can't use them in your daily driver. It just means you're insane if you do. And just know, if you want to use this amplifier in a daily driver, good luck, because your electrical system better be on point. That amp will draw well over 1,000 amps of current. So I hope you have multiple alternators, multiple batteries, and you are ready to handle what this thing does. This sub right here, you could run it in your daily driver. I went ahead and took it, put all the Feel Small parameters into Term Pro, which was provided by Wayne Harris, the owner of Term Lab. If you don't know who Term Lab is, then you are not in the industry, and you should. They are the creators of DB drags and pretty much reinvented the entire face of our industry. So if you're interested in what you see on this program, go to termlab.com and get it, because it is pretty much badass. If you are going to build sub enclosures or you want to know what your subs will play well in, this is the program to have. So I put the Feel Small parameters in for this sub to see basically what I needed. It came with no literature giving me any idea of what type of enclosure, what size of enclosure, or what it needed. Obviously, if it's going to run DB drags, you know you're going to go with a big ass 4 cubic foot box with a huge slot port, tune it high at 60 hertz, and you're going to burp it and make it a one-note wonder. But I wanted to see if it will play well as a daily driver in someone's car with a standard prefab box that you could buy off Amazon. So I put in the Trend 15-inch sealed box parameters, which is 2.25 cubic feet, tuned at 39 hertz. I put that in with the Feel Small parameters for the sub. The graph comes out great. It looks like it's going to play very well. It shows it's 127 decibels is the SPL output. The excursion doesn't look like it's going to be a problem. The Mach speed coming out of the port looks good. It actually looks like it'll play well in this ported box. So I ordered the box. So now you as a consumer would know if this is a Trend box, which I will put in the description, the model number, and this 15 are suited well. Now it's in there, it's ready to go. What we're going to do in this review is 2 product reviews. We are going to burp this 15 off of this amplifier using Term Lab to see what kind of output I'm getting from this 15. Now, a single 15, if you're getting in the high 130s, low 140s for a daily driver, that's pretty damn loud. Now, DB drags, people will be talking about, you know, if it ain't 150 or 160, it ain't nothing. Fine, 2.25 cubic foot, remember that. But if this thing can hit high 130s or low 140s, if you were to put it in a big old massive DB drag box, tune it higher to 60 hertz and get a one-note wonder out of it, you know this one sub is going to give you high 140s, low 150s, which is ridiculously loud if you are not used to that kind of output. So I'm shooting for, it says 127 on the program. I'm shooting for like 135. If I get 135 out of this thing in that little box, pretty cool. This amplifier can draw over 1,000 amps of current. Like I said, my test bench is not going to survive that amplifier. So do not expect to see a 20,000 watt output. It's not going to happen. I am going to pray that my bench can stay above 10 volts when I'm running that amplifier. Luckily, Genius gives us the power output at 10 volts, 12 volts, 14 volts, 16 volts, and 18 volts. So as long as I'm within the power ratings that they show at whatever voltage that my bench drops to when I run it, then I'm happy, because then I know they're not lying about the numbers. If I'm below what they say, then I can assume that this amp doesn't really hit anything that they have listed. There are a few things about the amp though that you do need to know as a consumer if you're gonna buy it. One thing is, it does have fans on the bottom of it. So you cannot mount this thing straight to carpet or straight to a wall or straight to wood because you're gonna get no circulation. You're gonna need to elevate this amplifier so that air can circulate underneath it. All the airflow is gonna run underneath the bottom of the amp. Also, it requires 2 0-gauge ground inputs and 2 0-gauge power inputs. It is insane how much power this thing draws. So you are definitely gonna have to beef up all your wiring to handle it. It does run master slave if you have 2 of them. Other than that, it's just a giant powerhouse. So let's get this thing hooked up. Let's get this thing hooked up and put in the car. You may notice the video quality and the audio change a little bit because I'm going to film this over a couple of days due to time restraints. But I'm going to get it all edited down, get this thing done for you. Let's get going. All right, this is the Genius Beast 10K amplifier at 4 ohms. At 4 ohms, we are looking at 12 volts, 1,000 watts. So let's see where our voltage is, and we'll see if we stay where we're supposed to be. $1,470, we dropped to 12 volts, 12.1. At 12 volts, she should have produced 1,000 watts. So 470 over its rated power. Now let's go ahead and drop it down to 2 ohms, and we're gonna do that with the 15-inch sub. And we're gonna go ahead and do a term lab run with the 15. All right, here we go. We're gonna run a sweep with this 15, this ridiculously massive amp. I'm just praying my test bench's power supply doesn't just explode. This is gonna draw so much current. So let's see what this thing does. $137.7 decibels. That's loud, man, for a single sub in a car that's prefab box, not custom built. 137 is plenty loud enough to be slamming. The amp gave us 2,178 watts, and I dropped all the way down to 11.4 volts. Okay, so the 10.1 monster amplifier from Genius, the giant surfboard amp, is on point with what it's rated. This amplifier will run all the way up to 18 volts. As you can see on the ratings, it has 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, and 18. We hit 11.4 volts on the test bench, so we're between the 10 and the 12. So at 12 volts, we should have got 1,900 watts at 2 ohms. We got 2,178 watts. We shouldn't have saw that unless we were running 13.8 volts, which at that point at 2 ohms is supposed to be doing 2250, which we're about 80 watts shy of. So this amp is actually, based on that, underrated. Because you can assume at 13.5 we were definitely going to pull more than 2250, since I'm getting damn near that at 11.4, 2 volts less. So the amp kicked ass. The sub kicked major ass at 137.7 decibels on term lab. That is a loud sub. That's on a sweep. That peaked out at 45 hertz. If you were to put that in a little bit larger box with a larger slot port, you're going to get a ton more. I have no doubt that this sub is easily going to do the upper 140s. If you were to put it in a custom built box with the right slot port, you can do mid to upper 140s with that single 15. So an array of those 15s, 2 to 4 of them, would just be nasty. The sub is showing absolutely no signs of destruction. I've been beating the hell out of it for 20 minutes. The coils are staying at 73 degrees, up to 88 degrees. The hottest I got it was 89 degrees. So I can't get the coils to go up any more than 10 degrees of its natural resting temperature. All right, the Genius 10K at 1 ohm. Since I know my electrical is going to be dropping, we're looking for 2,300 watts at 10 volts or 3,300 at 12 volts. So let's see what we get. $2,720 at 10.8. We should have been at 2,300 at 10 volts. 12 volts would have been 3,300. So we're almost at 11 volts and we're almost at the 33. So not super underrated, I guess. We're actually right on point. It's producing what it's supposed to. That's what matters. So 2,720 watts at 10.8 volts. This amp is a beast. No doubt in my mind that at 14.4 you wouldn't get what's supposed to be at 1 ohm, 5,000 watts. Yeah, you would get that all day if you could keep it at 14 volts. My back is killing me. That sub is massive and huge and weighs so much, and to take it in and out of the box is killing me. So you saw it before. If you want to see it, you can see it online again. But just moving that stuff around is just too much. So I've ran it through the test. The subwoofer is a 100% competition sub. Hands down, if you're a DB drags or you're looking for a demo vehicle to move air, that sub is out of control. I can't get it to get angry. I mean, it just isn't even hurting. So that 2,000 watts from the beast, it's nothing. That sub will take 5,000 all day long. I have no doubt that you could easily do high 140s, low 150s with those subs in a DB drag style enclosure with something that's more tuned to a higher frequency. But as far as driving around and banging, it's great. Is it a sub I would use as far as my daily driver sub? If you like to show off and just be ridiculous, then yes, but that sub is made for competition. It's not really made for your everyday throw it in the car. That's a big ass monster sub. The amplifier. The Beast 10K is a 10K. There's no doubt about it. So anybody that says it doesn't do 10,000 watts, you're wrong. It is a 10K amplifier. As far as being a 20,000 watt amplifier, I assume it will since they have ratings showing it going up that high. There's no way for me to test it. The only way I could test an amp that big is if I wanted to invest thousands and thousands of dollars into my test area. And I'm not gonna do that because how many of those big amps are gonna actually come across my bench? Maybe one a year, if that. So it's not worth it to me to invest how much it would take. To produce the current that amplifier requires, the amperage, to put out the power is insane, especially on a bench. So you saw my voltages were dropping down to like 11 and 10. I mean, it just can't sustain. Now, is the amp worth it? If you're a competitor, if you're in DB drags, or if you're someone, again, who just wants to show off and have big, massive equipment, and you want to have a ton of power, yes, that amp, hands down, is the way to go, especially with an MSRP of $2,458. So it's under $2,500 for the amplifier. All right, I produced over 2,500 watts at 10 volts. So that amp is a kick-ass amplifier, but it is a lot of power and it requires a lot of power. On the bottom side of the amp, there are fans. So I did notice you do have to elevate the amplifier. If you don't elevate it, you're gonna have to do a cutout underneath for air circulation. I had it sitting on the bench and the amplifier was getting very warm through testing. The ends, the power supply end was getting very, very hot. I didn't realize there was a fan on the bottom of it. So I elevated the amplifier, the fan was able to actually circulate the air and it dropped the temperature and was running a lot better. So that's something you need to realize. Don't just screw it to a carpeted panel. You're gonna suffocate that thing and it's gonna be very unhappy if you beat on it. It does require 2 0 gauge power inputs and 2 0 gauge ground inputs. So you have to figure that up when you're going to use an amp like that in your install. So it's not something you can just run, and you can't run a 0 gauge to a distribution block and then run 2 out. I mean, you can, I guess, if your run is that long, but outside of that, I wouldn't do that because you're going to overheat that first wire. It's going to catch on fire. That amp draws enough power that you can burn your car down. So that's one of those amps that's kind of, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. That amp is one of those. It is a badass amp. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice amp, and if you know anything about car audio and you can handle that amp, I would suggest getting that amp because that amp is badass, and for the price, it's ridiculous. So, I know a lot of you wanted the testing to be more in depth. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a complete bitch doing this testing. This was the worst review video I've done because it was so hard to handle the equipment and move it around and to hook it up and to get everything. Honestly, it was just a complete nightmare. And I'm not gonna lie, I blew up 3 power supplies and those things run about 840 bucks a piece. So testing that amplifier was smoking my equipment. So I've spent days, that's why if you notice some of the footage might look like, well, that looks like it might be a different day. It is. It's taken me 3 days to get the footage to film this amplifier because it's just, my bench is not made to handle something that big. So if you're in the market for a gigantic amplifier, physically and power-wise, check out the G4-10K. It is what it says it is. If you can run up to 18 volts and you've got the alternators in your car to handle it, that thing will be the greatest amp you've ever owned. If you're looking for a ridiculous subwoofer, which if you were gonna run that sub in your car just as a street banger, I would invert it or something to show off the motor because no one's gonna believe how badass it is. So you might as well show off that motor and that giant 4-inch coil because it's all exposed and it's very cool to look at. Or if you just wanna run it for DV drags, I don't know what the price is on it, the MSRP. It's not on their sheets. I wanna say before when I was looking it up at Slamology, I wanna say, but don't hold me to it, it was right around $550 or $600 for that sub. It's a very well priced sub for what it is. I have seen plenty of subs that are $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 subs that this thing will just destroy. So, my name is Cabe Sipes. I hope this review helped you. If you have any questions, which I know I'm gonna have people sending me questions, feel free to ask. I respond to everybody's questions. If I don't get to you within a day, I will get to you. I hope this video review helped you out. I'll see you next time.